So a very interesting development has occurred in the Disney Star Wars universe around the next movie. Now, if you haven't been paying attention, the recent Star Wars project Skeleton Crew recently wrapped up not too long ago, and it was pretty well received on the back of The Acolyte, which was completely a bomb. Like nobody liked The Acolyte, but Skeleton Crew was kind of this whimsical kind of kids Star Wars adventure, and for the most part people enjoyed it. It definitely got better reviews by far than The Acolyte. But now we got a little bit of shocking news around the next Star Wars film that is going to be directed by Shawn Levy. Shawn Levy is just come off of a very successful year. He did Deadpool and Wolverine, and it blew up. It was one of the highest earning films last year. And so he's coming off a really good year. And Disney Star Wars has got him directing the next film. And now it looks like there's very serious talks, like very serious reporting that Ryan Gosling could be entering the Star Wars universe. He could actually be joining the Star Wars franchise. Three-time Oscar nominee is in negotiations to top-line the Star Wars feature project that will be directed by Deadpool and Wolverine filmmaker Shawn Levy. Details on any Star Wars project are harder to acquire than plans for an orbital planet killer. Levy has been developing his Star Wars feature since 2022. It's unclear when Levy's project is set. Star Wars stories have run the gamut of hundreds of years. It is also unclear if it concerns Jedi and their enemies, the Sith. It is, however, to be unconnected to the so-called Skywalker saga. The story centers on well-established and beloved character Luke Skywalker and his father Anakin. It's meant to be a standalone movie, sources tell The Hollywood Reporter. Lucasfilms has no comment on any impending deal or other project details. Sources say the Gosling development is a late-in-the-game move for Levy's movie schedule. The filmmaker was eyeing to direct a boy band movie set up at Paramount, which would have reunited him with Ryan Reynolds and Hugh Jackman. But Gosling's interest and involvement suddenly shifted the Star Wars project into hyperspace. If a deal makes, the project would continue to fly like the Millennium Falcon, becoming not only Levy's next movie, but also the next Star Wars movie to go into production, with cameras potentially rolling this fall. The Mandalorian and Grogu wrapped in mid-December and will be released on May 22nd of 2026. So basically, we got two really hot commodities. We've got Ryan Gosling, who is very famous. I mean, he's the heartthrob for the ladies. He's also done sci-fi in Blade Runner, so this is not going to be foreign to him. He's actually a very versatile actor, I would say, and he's actually really good at what he does. And then you have Shawn Levy, who I am of the opinion. Now, Shawn Levy, he produces a ton. Like, he's producing so much stuff. He's even got his fingers in Stranger Things and has for a while, both directing and producing. But Shawn Levy stays extremely busy with producing. So whenever he directs a film, it's also like, well, he's had a handful of hits. So he's like, oh, he's the big thing. And the news right now around him is buzzing incredibly hot because of Deadpool and Wolverine last year. But when you look at the films he's directed, like, they all kind of do well, but when you watch it, you're kind of underwhelmed. I don't know. Let me know in the comments if you are a Shawn Levy fan, like if you are blown away by his movies. I think he does a good job with action. I think he does a good job with nostalgia. But to be honest, so does like J.J. Abrams. Like J.J. Abrams does that same thing, and he did Star Wars that were kind of underwhelming in major ways. So I don't think Shawn Levy is like a cinematic genius. I think when it comes to the business and getting things made and working in Hollywood and these high budget projects, he's probably pretty good at all of that, which probably explains why he does so much producing, because that's kind of more in the business weeds of Hollywood, the producers. But he's going to be directing this next Star Wars film as well. And whenever I see news like this, I'm always so fascinated because, especially around these big IPs, like Hollywood wants to make it a success so bad. Like they want to earn so much money from Star Wars once again. And I think they've learned over the years that the bar is set pretty high and that they have done flop after flop after flop, especially with the movies, but even with the Disney Plus shows. So it's like the only tactic, especially these big IP studios like Disney, the only strategy they really have is one, prequels, sequels, and remakes, right? And then you have to bring on some of the hottest people. Now, I know he's been, slated to be the director for a while, but I'm sure there's a lot more momentum both outside and inside Lucasfilms to get this project going because Shawn Levy is so incredibly popular at the moment. And now bringing in Ryan Gosling potentially, it's like all they could do is just like take what's hot, take what's trending, mix it into a familiar pot and serve it to everybody. And let's hope everybody likes it enough to pay us for the soup. You know what I mean? And it's kind of a really formatted, sterile, kind of silly way to go about it because filmmaking was all about creativity. Filmmaking was all about doing something that we've never seen before. And Hollywood wants to make filmmaking so predictable and big business once again. We've kind of seemed to have lost in the executive places of Hollywood the spirit of creativity and innovation, right? It's really all about what is going to make profits in the next quarter. And it's really disappointing to see that because we take something like Star Wars, which was a completely fresh idea, a new IP, and it was something special that George Lucas did. I mean, he really did something special for the time. And even though people didn't like, the prequels, there was a generation around my age who really enjoyed the prequels, and there's been a surge of fandom around those. And so George Lucas, although he might be an acquired taste when it comes to creativity, I think for the most part, especially with the original trilogy, he is a very creative, innovative person. Let's also remember that George Lucas valued being an independent creator. That's why he started Lucasfilms.
So later on, when American Graffiti came out and was this giant hit, then I used that opportunity to secure my position with the film I had been working on, which was Star Wars. I had made a deal with a studio. They expected me to come back and suddenly ask for more money because I was the hottest director in Hollywood, and I didn't do that. By this time, I had written a very long script, and I had been forced really to, rather than do a 6-hour, convince them to do a 6-hour movie, which I knew they weren't going to do. I came to the reality that I was going to have to cut this into 3 pieces and do the first 2 hours, and then hope somehow, some way, I'd get the other 4 hours made. But in order to do that, I sort of managed to get the sequel rights and licensing rights and all the other things for the film so that I could make enough money or promote the film with the licensing and everything to make the film successful enough to where I could get the next one made, which is all I was worried about at that point, was to be able to get all 3 of these films made, which at the time seemed impossible. It just didn't seem like anybody would ever... we expected the first film not to do that well, and so you're constantly on the defensive. You're constantly trying to say, well, if this one doesn't do well, how am I going to get the next one made? And as it turned out, the film was successful. I didn't need that, but what that gave me was a chance at independence after Star Wars came out. And I looked at it and I said, I have a chance now to become really independent from the system, the studio system. I don't have to go to them for the money. I don't have to go to them for permission. I don't have to do anything. I'm going to set myself up now using the profits from Star Wars to build a company completely independent up here in San Francisco. And that's what I did. That's why I stopped directing at that point.
Star Wars is what gave him that almost insurance, right? That guarantee that he is going to be in charge and have that creative, expressive freedom. But in Hollywood, I feel like creativity and new ideas and passionate young filmmakers who have a story to tell or even many stories to tell and want to do something that audiences have never seen before, it's like Hollywood's not the place for you anymore. But we have to also remember there's a lot of lessons and there's a lot of tactics that indie filmmakers, even if you're on YouTube or you're doing it independently, can learn from Hollywood, because even though they have a lot of failures, it's not always because of the marketing that's caused those failures. Hollywood is really good at marketing films. They have a lot of money to spend on it, but they also have a really good understanding of how to get audience psychologically to watch their film. And Shawn Levy actually did a really good job in Deadpool and Wolverine by bringing in the Wolverine yellow suit. It's kind of like a method that I refer to as green sand, right? The green sand method. It's basically making a visual novelty for audiences to latch onto and to want to see it in the marketing, through the trailer, through the artwork, through the posters. They want to see the film because they are being marketed with something that they've never seen before, and it raises curiosity. If you want to hear me go into more detail about that and you're interested in marketing for films online especially, watch this video right here. Thank you for watching. Leave a comment. I want to hear your thoughts. Subscribe to the channel, and thank you for liking the video.